Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Welcome, savers, to the Worry-Free Retirement. I'm Trey Juergens, full-time fiduciary here in the Louisville office with Wes Walker. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Trey. How's it going?
Good. We are actually Tony-less, and because he's not here, we're going to talk about gambling. How about that?
Really? Okay. Yeah, no saver stuff today then.
Exactly. Well, it's going to tie in. I think it'll make sense. But obviously, two things savers are not super comfortable with: gambling a lot of money and Wall Street. You've worked with savers for quite some time. Speak to what their risk tolerance really is.
Definitely. So for context, I guess, what we should go back and look at is that Tony created these three personalities of money. There are savers, investors, and speculators by Tony's definition. A saver is someone who is more concerned with their return of their money than on it. So someone who's worried about getting the money back and just being able to enjoy a worry-free retirement, not so much worried about growing the money into infinite sums. So with that said, what I've noticed with savers versus investors and speculators is just that they care particularly about making sure they don't have any big drawdowns, any big losses, or, not be able to actually use and enjoy the money, big lockup periods.
Yeah, so what we're going to talk about today, this Monte Carlo simulation. It's a way that Wall Street and the world of gambling kind of put a calculation together to see if enough money that you've saved for retirement will actually last you. So it's really kind of a gamble. So let's jump into how Monte Carlo simulations got their name. It's named after the city in Monaco, Monte Carlo. So in 1297, the Grimaldi family actually gained control of Monaco by disguising themselves as monks in a surprise attack.
And you've listed out the timeline for me here, Trey. So then moving on, big jump from 1297. In 1848, economic struggles led to the search for new revenue sources in Monaco. And at that point, Monaco had lost most of its territory, pushing the ruling family to seek a new source of income.
Wherein Prince Charles in 1856 legalizes gambling.
And then a few years later, 1863, Francois Blanc established the Société des Bons de Mer, the first casino that opened in Monte Carlo. If I pronounce that right, I'll be shocked.
I'm glad you had that one. In 1866, Monte Carlo district established and named after Prince Charles III. Named Mount Charles, so Monte Carlo.
And then in 1870s, they connected a railway from France to boost the access to it.
Which always helps. In the 1880s to 1910s, Monte Carlo becomes a huge destination for European aristocrats.
Following on with that line there, in 1910, Monaco became a tax haven. So they lowered their tax rates and attracted a ton of wealthy residents.
That helps draw people. In 1956, Grace Kelly, well-known American actress, marries Prince Rainier III. I like all these thirds being a tray, boosting global glamour.
And then in the 60s, the Grand Prix. So for the Formula One fans out there, they started the Monaco Grand Prix, and it drew a ton of international attention to the city.
Yeah, that's one that I've heard of, obviously. In the 1980s, 1990s, casino and tourism just blew up in Monte Carlo.
And then from the 2000s to present day, Monte Carlo has solidified its status as a luxury hub for the wealthy and the famous. They've got all kinds of events like the yacht show that attract billionaires and celebrities to Monaco each year.
All right, so all that said, Wes, what does that have to do with savers and retirement?
So up to this point, we've just talked about the founding of the city itself, but there is also a mathematical formula or calculation that's named after the city in Monaco, Monte Carlo simulation. Mm-hmm. Monte Carlo simulation was developed in the 40s when they were instituting the Manhattan Project to try to build the atom bomb. And what it is basically just outlays a range of scenarios. It runs thousands of calculations and then comes up with a range of probabilities that something will or will not happen. But it's very useful when you're doing scientific studies, when you're doing different things to see what the probabilities of outcomes are. And in modern times, it's been used a lot in financial research to see the outcomes of different distributions.
Yeah, so it kind of marries the gambling and the financial world into what could happen in retirement.
You could run a Monte Carlo simulation on a roulette wheel to see how many times it would land on black.
All right, folks, so we'll be right back. We're going to head over to the monitor to talk about the pros and cons of Monte Carlo simulations. So stick around.
Today's Better Business Bureau Spotlight comes to us from James. We put our trust in Tony Walker about 10 years ago. He gives great financial advice. Tony Walker is with you after you invest. He is always available for advice as long as you are with him. Some companies sell you products, then disappear. Not so with Tony. We plan to stay with Tony for a long time. We recommend him for all financial advice. For more information, visit TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 877-499-9255. And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here on the Worry-Free Retirement. I've got our next Tony in the Trenches right here, so let's get to it. This TNT comes to us from Vicky in Bowling Green. Tony, my husband is already retired with his pension and Social Security. I'm still planning to work a couple more years until I can go on Medicare at 65. But I've heard you mention an option to roll over your 401k prior to retirement. How do I find out if I'm eligible to roll over my 401k now?
Very interesting question. This comes from Vicky out of Bowling Green, and boy, do we get this a lot. Years ago, now this was 20 plus years ago, I was privileged to be in the first ever Elite IRA Advisor program hosted and conducted by well-known author and CPA Ed Slott. And I never will forget, one of the most invaluable information I received back then was understanding something called a non-hardship in-service withdrawal of a person's 401k plan after age 59 and a half, but while that person is still working for the employer that they're contributing a 401k plan. I didn't know you could do this, but again, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and this is what Vicky's asking about. So in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, a person, if they're over 59 and a half, and if the plan document that supports the 401k allows it, can roll over the 401k, we call that the old money, to our process at Tony Walker Financial, and generally we like to put it in our split IRA concept, which is not available in 401ks. Plus also, besides the split IRA concept, you get me thrown in for the deal free, plus 19 full-time staff to watch over this, so it's a wonderful proposition to consider. But anyway, you can roll over the old money, and yes, you could still, if Vicky wanted to, continue to contribute to the 401k. That's called the new money, and especially if you get a match, you're probably going to want to take advantage of that match. So what are the advantages of doing this? Why not just keep funding the 401k until Vicky retires? Well, because we know she's going to be retiring soon. Most of my clients who are savers don't want to put a lot of risk when they're that close to retirement, and most of the 401ks have a lot of risk out there unless you move it all into some sort of stable value fund or something. But also there's no game plan. So what we like to do with these rollovers after 59 and a half, even if you're still working, is get the game plan in place, get the assets in place, get everything linked to your checking account, all the tax withholdings all set up, ready to go. So when, not if, when you're ready to start deploying that money and using and enjoying it, we've already got everything set up. So that's you right now. If you're 59 and a half, getting ready to turn 59 and a half, maybe well above 59 and a half, and you didn't know what you could do, what's called a non-hardship in-service withdrawal, and move that 401k to Tony Walker Financial and you're not sure, let's do something called an eligibility call. We're free of charge. Our offices will contact you, your current 401k custodian, to see if we can, in fact, roll over that 401k to safer territory and into our proprietary split IRA concept. So simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button, or you can always call us toll-free anytime 24/7 at 877-499-9255. We'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today.
Welcome back, Savers. So here we are at the monitor, Wes. We're going to talk about Monte Carlo simulation. So we've talked about the history of Monte Carlo and Monaco, but we're going to speak a little bit to how the pros and cons weigh in for retirement planning. So let's start first with the pros. And with that, pro number one, it does incorporate market volatility uncertainty. That's for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, Monte Carlo basically takes a range of uncertain outcomes and assigns probabilities to them. It runs thousands of simulations and then lands on which probabilities it thinks may or may not happen.
Exactly. Good stuff. Number two, it helps in adjusting withdrawal rates. So if you're taking different amounts out, different years, it does incorporate that. So speak some to that.
I think the big point here is that you can play around with it. You could say, well, what if I withdrew 3% a year or $30,000 a year? You can have different inputs. So we'll talk about why that may be a problem here in a second, but you can play around with the Monte Carlo.
Exactly. Next one. Dynamic and flexible. Obviously, that's good in terms it comes to flexibility in retirement planning. We always speak to that with our split IRA concept. But explain a little bit what the Monte Carlo simulation lacks that our flexibility does have.
Sure. Well, Monte Carlo simulation is really just, it's nothing that's guaranteed. It's just here's what probably will or won't happen. It's not here's what will happen. In our split IRA concept, we can show you how to use your money and guarantee an outcome in a worry-free retirement through the use of annuity contracts and our very flexible Charles Schwab platform, what we call the split IRA concept.
Exactly right. Good points. Next one, provides a probability of success.
Yep, that's true. So, I mean, you'll run some of these and they'll say, all right, you've got a 95% probability of making it to 85 and not running out of money. The question, as we'll see here in a minute, becomes, well, what happens if I reach older than 85?
Yeah. I love the question, do I have enough to retire? If I said probably instead of yes, that's going to be a little concerning. But
that's what these will say, probably.
This last one visualizes the range of possible outcomes. So like you said, it is a wide range. All right, Wes, so now we're going to go to the top 5 cons. And this is where we can poke some holes in it. And so number one, it's heavily dependent on the input assumptions.
Definitely. So an old phrase in Wall Street is garbage in, garbage out. Tony tells a pretty funny story of meeting an analyst or an advisor or somebody, and he had asked, well, you know, what is the probable outcome of this product? And I think the person just told him whatever you want it to be. Yeah. If I put in the numbers, if I put in a 10% rate of return and, you know, you've got $500,000 and you have no debt, I can make it look really, really appealing through a Monte Carlo analysis. But again, it is all based on the assumptions you make inside the analysis.
Exactly. How good do you want it to look?
Sure.
So number two. Fails to account for extreme market events. This is a big one, especially people still remember 2008. Even 2022 was a weird year in the market. Mm-hmm. Speak to what a fat tail is in the market.
Definitely. So thinking back to my Stats 296 days, there were all kinds of different terms. Fat tails, excess kurtosis. There were chi-squared tables, all sorts of weird stuff. But essentially a fat tail just means that outcomes on the outer sides of the probability distributions, what is the likelihood that they happen? So maybe exceptionally great outcomes where you have millions of dollars at the end of retirement, or exceptionally poor outcomes where you retire and eventually run out of money. It does not account for those tails on the other side of that distribution when things really don't work out well.
So it kind of focuses on the sweet spot and not the outliers.
Definitely.
So next one, complexity can be confusing for non-experts. I think this is a theme that goes across finance. They are complex. When you're explaining them, again, there's a lot of uncertainty. So speak to the complexity and how many different variations it runs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's thousands of different outcomes that can be simulated here. And again, you're going to get a big spreadsheet of all these different things that have happened throughout the simulation. It can be really hard to read that output and say, I feel confident about turning my money over to this simulation here. I would rather get a game plan that just showed how much money I could expect in retirement at each step of the game in 5-year increments, kind of the same way we outlay it in our game plans.
Exactly. Next one, underestimates the sequence of return risk. We show this a lot. Pulling money out of accounts when they're down, that's a huge risk in retirement planning, and this doesn't take that into account.
Definitely. And if I were to run a Monte Carlo, what's scary about it is that if I use really risky portfolios, Sometimes it will make the outcomes look better because the rate of return, the assumed rate of return, is higher. But let's just say in the first couple years, that wasn't the case. There was a negative 20, a negative 30% return, and you're withdrawing money from the portfolio. That could really be a disastrous outcome for somebody who's trying to live on this money for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's scary stuff. Last one, Wes. It may give overconfidence in high probability results.
Same as point one, if I were to input some really high values into the return assumptions or short assumptions in the number of years we need, I can make this look really good, but it is not the definite outcome of what is guaranteed to happen.
Yeah. So savers, if you're out there and you don't want to leave your retirement to chance, I would do this. Please give us a call, 877-499-9255, or visit TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You can click the Let's Get Started button and we'll follow up with you. Wes, I thank you for your insight on the simulations. Good stuff.
Thank you for having me, Trey. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. You all stay tuned.
The individuals in this interview are uncompensated clients at the time of filming. Their opinions expressed were provided to Worry-Free Productions for use as an advertisement by Tony Walker Financial. Please refer to Form CRS and Form ADV Part 2A Disclosure Brochure for information regarding the advisory services offered by Tony Walker Financial.
Our client spotlight today shines brightly on Mr. Doug Cox. And Mr. Cox, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Now, first of all, tell us a little bit about what you did. I know you've recently retired, but what you're doing now.
Well, I retired in May. Did machinist work for many years, and right now just enjoying retirement and the good life, and working with my brother in the horse racing business.
And if you could go back in time, how did you first learn about Tony Walker Financial?
Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was just watching on the weekends. I'd watch your broadcast, and the more I watched, the more I thought, this sounds really interesting. Like I'd like to hear more what y'all do, and from the saver's perspective of things, and that's what initiated my call to talk to you.
So really that idea, that message that we really don't like to take a lot of risk, we want to make sure our clients don't run out of money, that just resonated with you?
Yeah, fit me to a T, really. It really did, because I'm more into hanging on to what I got, and I'm not a big risk taker, gambler, that kind of thing, and it's worked out well.
Where did the interest in horses start?
Well, it's all about my brother. I mean, I grew up around the racetrack, but I was just part-time. I wasn't as involved like he is, and it just consumed him, and there's a bit of difference in our age, so he's just like a generation younger, and he went over there and he never left, so as he got more involved in it, I just kind of followed along, but my involvement's nowhere near his, because I worked a public job doing machinist work where he was going to the racetrack, and he stayed there, and it's been a lot of fun. I help him in a lot of other ways, I feel like, other than just the horse business, because it's so consuming of his time. He can call me, and that frees him up to stay focused on the horse business, because it really is like 24/7. And now with me having some free time and being retired, it works out well. It really does.
What's it been like working with the staff here at Tony Walker Financial?
It's been great, because it's all, it's new territory to me. And I've been educated, I've found out a whole lot. And the complete staff, top to bottom, the crew in Bowling Green that you have, and here, it's just really been great.
Well, Mr. Cox, we appreciate your business, and thank you so much, and hopefully many years of service to come.
Oh, well, I hope so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
All right, our case study today is an interesting one. Basically, I met a nice couple. They were in their mid-60s, had been with an advisor several years. We're not really displeased with the advisor, but once they got into retirement planning, they found out that basically there was no plan and they weren't going to receive a plan. So their words to me were this. When I said, okay, what can I help you with? This is what they told their advisor. Couldn't answer the question, apparently, and this is why they were with me. They just wanted to know, here's was his words, what the heck is going on? That was it. So what the heck is going on? I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, number one, I asked the advisor, I want to know what the fees are that you're charging me. The advisor would not answer that question. I want to know how much risk I'm taking with my money. Again, these advisors were a couple was in their 60s, mid-60s, so they didn't want to take a lot of risk, but the advisor was not willing to change the risk, said don't worry about it. And finally, how much money can we draw, okay, and without running out of money? I get this question a lot. So these are three big issues that a lot of times advisors kind of skirt around. They're not going to get into detail about the fees. They're not really that concerned about risk because they think everybody should take risk in retirement. In other words, that's the only way you can make it. We're the opposite. We don't like taking a lot of risk with our clients' money. And then finally, they just want to make sure that they're not going to run out of money. So what we did, I went back to our proprietary game plan. I met with our staff in Bowling Green. I put the income plan. Again, folks, I'm doing all the assessment. I've done this for 40 years. I've done thousands and thousands of assessments with our proprietary software. I know what I'm looking at, and I know how to meet the objectives of our clients and what they're expecting from Tony Walker Financial. So when I came back, this is how simple I made this. We call this our split IRA. I basically divided up their assets, and this is more conceptual. Don't run out and do this. We're just showing you how I broke this down into three buckets, A, B, and C. The first bucket was with Charles Schwab. And again, we'll just say it was $500,000 just to break this up. I put $150,000 in Schwab, so we know 0.8% of that is whatever that is, $1,200 a year. So we know what the fee is on that. On this, I put this in a fixed annuity. This had 0 fees. Currently, as of the date of this recording in June of 2024, they're guaranteeing for all the way up to 10 years, actually, if you want to do it, 5% guaranteed. No fees, all right? Remember, these people are more interested in principal protection than they are trying to grow their money. And then, on the back end, they did say they didn't want to run out of money. Well, the only way to guarantee that, as a lot of the articles are starting to express now from Wall Street, is you're going to have to put annuities in that, which is something we specialize in. That's our annuity mailbox money.
Mailbox money!
Which we can kick that in at any time to provide that guaranteed lifetime income. So that might be you right now. You might be saying, I don't know what the heck the fees are. I'm tired of taking risk. And finally, I just want to make sure somebody can show me how much money I can safely spend without the fear of one day running out of money. If that's you, why don't you give us an opportunity to talk? We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. It's easy to take advantage of talking to me, the owner of the company, Tony Walker. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button, or call us anytime at 877-499-9255.
You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back. Our Tony Walker Financial 5-star review comes to us from David. We have been a client of Tony Walker for almost 10 years now. Tony and his staff are always very helpful and informative when needs arise. With Tony's guidance, we were able to retire at 63 and his plan is working perfectly. If you'd like to read more of our 5-star reviews, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
In keeping in pace with our theme of Monte Carlo and gambling, I got to tell you a funny story. I was recently treated my son Anthony, my brother Marty, and favorite nephew Wes to an all-expense trip to Las Vegas. Now, why did we go to Las Vegas? Well, actually, it was a golf trip. There's some wonderful courses out there. We played a couple of cool courses, Shadow Creek and another one, Southern Highlands. Just a magnificent live well, die broke moment. But while I was out there, I'm just not a gambler. And again, I don't have a problem with people gambling. And my son Anthony has never been a gambler, never exuded any inference that he would like to gamble. But it was funny. He and Wes were out into the night roaming the casinos. And me and Marty, obviously, we'd already gone to bed. That was too late for me. But the next day, Wes said, "Hey, did you hear about Anthony winning all this money?" And I said, "No, what did you win, Anthony?" He goes, "Well, I won like $700 at the roulette table." You know, the roulette tables where you put your little ball on one of the colors and they spin it, and it's pretty much either red or black, I think. But he guessed 3 or 4 in a row, made the money, walked away. And I said, "Well, that's great, Anthony. It's fun that you walked away from it." So he said, "Well, you ought to try Dad." I said, "Nah, I'm not into that. I mean, it's like a $50 minimum bet. I mean, that's a lot of money. And, you know, not that I can't lose that, I guess, but just the thought of it." So anyway, we were almost ready to leave the casino for the final day, and Anthony's going, "Come on, Dad, just do it one time, the roulette table." I said, "Well, whatever." So, okay, put my $50 down, put the little ball on red. They spun it. Of course, it comes up black. He said, "Try it again, Dad." I said, "All right, one more time. That's it, Anthony." Put my $50 down, put it back on red thinking odds are, come on now, surely it's going to do red. Nope, it did black. And I lost $100 and I said, okay, let's go. And we walked off and Anthony didn't say anything. Well, later on in the day, Wes said, Anthony said, man, I'm impressed how Dad was able to just walk away from the table. And I bring all that up, folks, because if you are retired or nearing retirement, and congratulations, if you've had all your money in the stock market as we record this show in late October of 2024, you have made out like a bandit, no pun intended. You have done very well, but you got to remember, those winnings are still on the table. Lest we forget 2008. Folks, if this market were to crash, so will those winnings. You've got to be able to walk away, assuming you're a saver. Again, this show's for savers, not investors and speculators. But assuming you're a saver and you are retired or you're a year or two away from retirement, let me warn you that, yeah, the market could keep going up, but I saw this happen in 08, and when it went down quickly. And again, if you're into retirement, this is not good to have a down market when you need to take out money. So I would encourage you to be careful. Talk to us. If you've got some winnings on the table, maybe it's time to take them off the table and get with somebody like us at Tony Walker Financial. Now, what I want to close with, in tying into this Monte Carlo, the thing that the financial world has done a great job of, folks, is focusing on more and more money. In other words, telling you that you should take more risk, i.e. Monte Carlo, with your money in retirement because, hey, you might need it, and look at what you can make. And I agree, it's a very great temptation to watch all this money grow, but what I've found in working in this business for 40 years, literally meeting in person with 20,000 savers, is that most people really don't have a plan. They're just trying to grow their money, and when I ask them, what are you wanting to accomplish with this money, most of them can't tell me. Now think about this a minute, folks. The whole purpose of retirement is really pretty simple. You save money while you're working. The purpose of this savings is when you get into retirement is to spend it, right? I mean, come on, what are you doing? Why are you continually taking risk and stockpiling and growing your money when you have no game plan in place to spend and enjoy it? So I'm going to share an example of a person A, person B, and I'm going to describe this to you, and I'm kind of going to walk you through what your retirement might look like, and you tell me which person you'd rather be. Okay, we have two people, and let's just assume they're both age 60, and I know this is a lot of money, but I'm just using round numbers. Person A has $1 million in their 401k, person B has $1 million in their 401k, and person A says, you know what, I think I'm going to retire in a couple of years. Tony, I've read your book, Live Well, Die Broke. By the way, folks, that audio book is brand new, available on the website, absolutely free. The entire audio book of Live Well, Die Broke is on the website at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Encourage you to download it. And I'm not really that concerned with how much I leave when I die. I just want to enjoy the money, and I realize, as you say, Tony, I'm going to spend less as I get older anyway. That's person A. Person B says, Tony, that all sounds well and good, but I've always had a goal of having $2 million by the time I'm age 80. I'm just going to kind of live on the interest. I'm going to keep it at risk. I think I can make really good money. And person B takes all of this risk, and one day down the road doesn't even get to $2 million. Why? Because the market crashes. And then they're near the end of their life, and it's like they passed up all the good times they could have enjoyed it. And my question is, what was the point of all of this, folks? So if you're thinking out loud, if you'd rather be person A or person B, person A would be more in line with our values and what we believe, that money is to be used and enjoyed and spent while you can. That all of us really do die broke, meaning we can't take it with you. If that resonates with you, if you're like, yeah, I want an advisor that counsels me that way. I want to use and enjoy this money, maybe give it to kids and grandkids now versus waiting till I die. I'm tired of taking all this risk. I'm satisfied with the money I've got. I just want somebody to show me how to use and enjoy it while I still can and without the fear of one day running out of money. Then you need to talk to us. Now, if you're person B and you want to try to keep growing the money and you want to see how much you can grow, folks, you need to stay with your stockbroker or money managers. That's fine, but that's not what we're all about. At Tony Walker Financial, we are unique to the financial world. I created this process years ago called the Worry-Free Retirement, and it is specifically geared towards helping savers worry less about money. We have a proprietary process, proprietary software, and we are local. I will meet with you in person. I'll lay out a plan for you if you're a saver. So to find out if you're eligible for our services and just want to talk, we call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. Let's take advantage of that and just talk. You can set that phone call up by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or give us a call anytime at 877-499-9255. Well, that's all the time we have today. You remember, between now and next week, though, if all else fails, you be worry-free and you make it a good one.